Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I am Laurie Lawson, and my lovely guest today is Sarah Wahiba Senan. Let me tell you, Sarah, thank you so much for being here, first
You.
of all. But Sarah and I were just talking. We met way before not way, but before the pandemic, and we sort of mentioned the show then, and then like 6 years later, we're going. You know what? It's probably time. So I'm so glad that you agree.
Yeah.
I think we were both doing we were helping with some training, some coach training for IPAC. Yeah. So here we are, a bunch of years later, and we have survived. And we're going to talk about just what Sarah's doing because I see her on Facebook all the time, and it's like, wow, she is doing it up here. But first, Sarah, tell us how you got into coaching because I think you have a fascinating story.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again for having me.
Oh,
So I
pleasure.
got into coaching. I graduated from Rutgers and started working for Target, and I worked my way up through the ranks there. And I thought this is what I'm going to retire from because that's what you do. You climb up the ranks and then you retire from there. So I was doing what you should do in a career. So I started as an assistant store manager, then I did human resources for them, then they gave me a store, then they gave me a bigger store. And this is about 9-ish years into the career. And I was down in Philly, still living in South Jersey, commuting into Philly. And I hit a wall because I was overweight. I was over 300 pounds at the time. I had relocated away from friends and family. So it took NASA level precision for a lunch because I was working 80 hours a week. So it just wasn't a good spot at all. But every time I thought about leaving, I think, but then you're giving up the security and like what you should be doing. So I stayed really stuck for a full year. Early 2015, I was on the phone with an old boss of mine, and he was the district manager in this area in North Jersey where I am now. And I made a joke, and I was like, "You keep filling stores, and you're not asking me to take one." He said, "Actually, I have one for you." And I said, "Oh my goodness." So, for anybody not familiar with Jersey, there's a county, the only county in the whole country that retail stores are closed on Sundays. And he asked me to take over one of those stores.
Bergen, yes, I shop there, and it's like,
County.
why?
Yes, exactly. It's very weird if you're like a customer or a guest in a store, but for somebody running the store, it was, oh my God, a gift. So all I kept thinking is, here I am. I'm back up home in North Jersey. I'm closer to friends and family. I don't have to work retail on Sundays. This is a gift, and if I don't make good on this gift, I'm crazy. So I said, okay, two commitments, focus on my health and then focus on the work-life balance. So 50 hours was my new max. I did that. 3 months later, when I dropped about 35 pounds at that point, went on to lose 100 pounds that year, and then also had tons of time, you get a lot of clarity when all of a sudden you're physically comfortable. And the clarity was how much I loved helping people. And 98% of my job now was just doing not that, was like the logistics and the making sure the schedules were right and all the other things that go into the store. So I said, this isn't sustainable. What's going to let me help people full time and not career hop?
Mm.
Did lots of soul searching that summer, realized coaching was the answer. And then really quickly it unraveled. Like once you figure out the right way, it's almost like then the next step, then the next step, and the next step appeared. I was enrolled in IPEC that November, started during fourth quarter, which looking back was crazy, but also how much I wanted to do this. Yesterday was the anniversary of 9 years that I've been certified. So I've been certified for 9 years, and then I left Target in 2019, right before you and I met. Because for 3 years I did Target full time and then I did this part time, and now I've been doing it full time for the last 6 years, and it's been amazing and everything I thought it would be and more.
Well, let me tell you, congratulations, because for me, it took me 10 years to finally decide, you know what, I'm going to be a full-time coach. I've had it. I mean, I did it on the side and I loved it like you did, but I had a business and I was running it too. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is I'd be a fool to give it up. And I know the courage it takes. It took me much longer than it took you. So congrats on that one.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible situation to be in, like what is it called, the golden handcuffs, yeah, where it's like, oh, things are so good, I'd be crazy to give it up, but
Yeah, yeah, and it that took some time, like to like really settle into it. And I remember at one point it was probably 6 months before I left. Like I knew I wanted to leave, like that was always the goal, but I just couldn't like do the thing, like, and say, okay, here it is, here's the date. And I realized it was around like, oh my gosh, I'm going to step away from what I knew. That was what it was. It wasn't the
Yeah.
business plan, it wasn't anything else. It was my inner stuff around, oh my gosh, this is going to be a whole new space being an entrepreneur after being an executive for a well-known company for so long. So it's never what it seems on the surface.
Never, never. But I'm sure in that sense, because I know a lot of I've been kicking around I pay for a long time, and I know a lot of people just don't know how to market and they don't realize that the coaching is a business. So I'm sure that helped you a little bit, to sort of have a head start of some kind, just to say, you know what, they're not going to come to my door. I'm not going to be doing it in my pajamas. I got to go out there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
So we break a few myths here if we can. Yeah. So what do you think, what do you contribute the main, was it, my thought is, from negativity creates all positive is created. What do you think was the main thing that got you to say, no, no more? Because my thought is, if you're walking down Paradise Alley, you're not going to get off it. Why would you do that?
Yeah. I think I realized like I had worked so hard at Target to do all the things. I was going on the vacations and I was, you know, doing the hair appointments. I was blonde at the time, so I had to get my hair done every 4 weeks, right? So I was doing vacations a few times a year, and that's all nice and like able to like all those things. Like I was doing all the things that you're promised are like
Yeah.
amazing, but I wasn't feeling good. Like it also didn't feel good. I felt so nervous to disconnect from work that the only time I actually disconnected was I would scramble my work password before my vacations. And then I would tell my team Thursdays every 4 weeks on Thursdays, don't reach out to me because that was my hair appointment. And like after a while, I thought, oh, look at me with my boundaries. And then I realized that's not boundaries. And I started to realize like it didn't feel good, even though I had all the things that, you're supposed to have. And I think that was kind of the changing point. It was very internal of realizing like I'm not truly happy, even though I follow all the rules.
Well, I'll give you more congratulations because it seems to me like you're coaching executives and leaders and things like that. And I remember when I was a mentor coach, so many students, for lack of a better word, would say, "Oh, I'd love to do executive coaching, but I can't talk to them." And I would always tell them, executives are people too. They've got problems. They're just like you and me. They might make a little bit more money,
Right.
but what on earth did you take your experience and say, you know what, I'm going to help these leaders give them better life than I had? Or what made you decide to
The
get the
opposite.
courage to do that?
I had a lot of resistance to executive and leadership coaching for a really long time. I'm probably just settling into that in the last like few years because I
Oh,
thought I worked so hard to get away from that. Oh gosh, I don't want to like
yeah.
co-sign, but that was my stuff and that was my judgment that I was projecting onto other people. And I thought there's some people who love what they do and they might want some support. Like, why wouldn't I want to help those folks? So it took me a lot of working through my own resistance of realizing how much I had my stuff that I was projecting onto them. But now I love it. I really do. I love working with executive clients because there's a ripple effect that they're then able to have on their teams. And right now that is very needed in the workplaces.
Oh my goodness, yes. And in the midst of chaos and uncertainty and emotional intelligence came along and it was like, wait a minute, I thought I knew the rules of being a boss. That's not happening anymore. And it just keeps changing, which is good, I'm sure, but hopefully for the better. But yeah, I can see where I saw it happening after 2008 when the financial crisis came and everybody was going, what happened? I did everything right. uh,
Yes.
Times changed, but so it's good to know that you're out there doing that. And tell us, who else are you coaching, and how are you coaching? Are you coaching one-on-one? Yeah,
I do one-on-one coaching, and then I also do training and development for companies. So training and development, I'll customize based on the pain points. So I'm not a big fan of like training in a box and let's roll it out. Like I want it to like really resonate with
yeah,
folks.
yeah.
So I'll really make sure it's tailored to whatever the pain points are. Is it going to fit better if it's in a 2-hour module or a multi-day offsite? So that's the training and development portion. And that's really, it's all centered around like understanding your own lens and your own awareness so that you're thinking internally before you're projecting outward. And then for my one-on-one clients, I'll work with executives. I work with a fair amount of entrepreneurs. I'll work with folks who are looking for clarity. Maybe they've not been in the workforce for a while and now they're trying to figure out, okay, what's the thing to get back into the workforce? So I'll work with anybody. It's really the way I work with people that's different because we're like, what's the thing under the thing? What's your lens? That's a big metaphor that I use, like the layers and the lenses.
I
That's
know I want to talk about the lenses, but I really love the fact that I think you're aware that or your main focus is, we're all humans. And so I can work with you, but I'm going to detail it and tailor it towards you. So
yes.
I think that's a fantastic way to look at coaching. It's like I know people will go, "Oh, I can't coach parents because they don't have kids." And I go, "You know what? I think you're probably the one thing that a parent with kids would need.
Yes.
Someone who can bring in a whole different viewpoint here." So there
Mhm.
are no boundaries, and I like that's how you treat your coaching. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your lenses because you have five distinct lenses that you say this is what you use, and here's how you help people attain them.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, that's based on IPEC, the 7 levels, right? So just when you're more drained, you're going to see the world one way versus when you're more fueled, you're going to see the world another way. I use that from the Energy Leadership Index with all my clients. That's the one thing that I offer as a standalone because I just think that that gives people like it arms them with the self-awareness. So many other assessments and ways of looking at yourself. It's so objective and it's so in a box. I'm just not a fan of the in the box stuff.
Mhm.
I'm realizing as I'm talking to you, I follow the rules and then I started to make my own rules and I help people do that. Like I've never put that together until right now in this conversation, but I do think the ELI really helps and the 7 levels really helps folks to understand what it is, like what's going on for them so that they then can see what choices they have.
Tell us, just because, and truthfully, I was such a pioneer in the IPAC. There was no ELI when I came
Oh,
through, and
yeah.
Bruce was doing colored circles, and we're going, yeah, they're pretty, Bruce. We had
Right.
no idea what he was doing. So Bruce is the leader of IPAC. Um, so tell us just a brief. What is ELI? Yeah, I know it's Energy Leadership Index, and
Yeah. It's based on the framework that there's 7 different places that we go. The lower the level is, and they're not fancy names, that's 1 through 7. The lower you go, the more judgment there's going to be towards yourself and the world, the more draining it's going to be. So level 1 is feeling like, oh my gosh, there's no choice. I'm at the effect of everything. And like every time I talk about level 1, my shoulder is like, come on, I can't even help myself. And then the higher you go, the less judgment there is, and the more awareness. And level 7 is true non-judgment. We don't necessarily want to live there all the time because then that's not a lot of
exhausting.
is there. Yeah, it'll be really exhausting for everybody else around us. But like level 5 is like, 5 to thrive. I like to say to clients, at level 5, it's what's the win-win? There's so much less judgment. It's really looking like very meta view at things. And a lot of times folks are so conditioned to automatically think, oh, I'm at the effective and I have no choice, or I have to be right and somebody else has to be wrong in order for me to be right and to win. That's level 2. We don't even realize how much that takes over when we're stressed and in moments of autopilot. And that just gives a shared language for me and a new client or a group of people in an organization to be able to say, okay, wait, where they can say, where am I coming from? And then they then have the awareness to say, wait, I might have different choices.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, very
Yeah.
nice explanation. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the lenses, and then, yeah,
Yeah.
we can talk a little bit about your latest blog or latest
Yeah.
posting. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Layered Lenses is the name of my blog. It's also the name of my newsletter. I send out weekly newsletters just talking about like something I'm seeing a lot of out in the world, whether it's clients, friends, and families, or both. And I called it Layered Lenses just because I think there's different lenses we all have, and we don't realize how much they might show up like all the time, and they're just the air that we breathe, but everyone has a different one. But there's
The
always
thing you make me think of is like when you go to the eye doctor and he'll flip the lenses, and it's like, is that one good? No, it's a little bit.
yes.
Then you go, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then put the layered because there's always layers to it. What I actually sent out to my news list this morning was the power of end. Like things aren't a binary. Like it's end. We could be grateful for what we went through. I was grateful for what I received from Target, and I knew it was time to move on. But
Mm.
so often, like we don't look at the layers and the end of it all. And I think that the layered lenses, like when we start to acknowledge all of that, then we have better vision to go with when you go to the eye doctor, because there's layers to it, right? There's different
Yeah.
kinds of lenses that we might need at different times of the day. So it's all together.
It's yeah, and it also kind of reminds me of peeling the onion. It's like, that there's a little bulb in the middle, but then you're gonna peel it and there's a lot of stuff. To me, it sounds like, which I kind of like better than the onion, I think, is that these lenses are useful, and you can be
Mhm.
aware of them. You don't have to throw them away. You can bring them back on if necessary, and maybe to teach yourself a lesson, because I'm constantly going, are you being a victim, which is level one, and it's like, yeah, I am. All right. So where do you want to be, So it's kind of like that. I like that they're not disposable for you.
Yeah, they're not disposable. And even I had a client actually this morning, and what we ended up talking about was sometimes our strength can be our weakness. And it doesn't mean we want to like get rid of the thing because then we lose the strength. It's just about balance and calibration,
Yeah.
calibrating of it all. So sometimes it's just, again, it's that awareness, but then also saying, okay, am I overusing this? What if it was just shifted over a couple of inches? Then does that bring everything back into balance? And
Yeah.
then vision.
I am definitely getting, maybe I need an eye exam. I do have something on my eye, but maybe that's it. But I'm getting the whole eye doctor thing there. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you have some of your lenses, it was like listening deeply, which of course that's what coaches do.
Yes.
Emotional acknowledgement. What is that? Who are
Uh,
we acknowledging?
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you're talking about the values that are there on my site. So
Core values. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So emotional acknowledgement is so important, and I think that's often overlooked. Like it's people want to know they matter. Like they really want to know that they matter and that they're seen. And sometimes that, like seeing somebody makes all the difference in the world. I remember back when I was in my Target days, we were focusing on recognition at some point, and I was already trained as a coach. So when I tell this story, it's very clear that a coach was doing this. I pulled in all my hourly supervisors, said, okay, we're going to watch something. And we watched a 7-minute clip of Oprah. And she was talking about how every time she ended rolling, like when the red light went off on the camera, everybody, and she said, even Beyonce and all her Beyonce-ness would turn and look at Oprah and go, was that okay? And that's all people want. And that, like, I'm getting goosebumps even as I say this to you. That's what people want. So I told my team, if you're going to recognize people, recognize them, but like make sure it's not just about the job they did. What did they bring to it? And we saw a big shift in culture. But that's something that I feel like I bring to my coaching as well. Like I'm seeing somebody in the moment that they're in, right? Because a lot of times people come to coaching saying, most times they want to change something. And then they're beating themselves up about the thing that they want to change. But like, wait, there's a reason that this is happening now. Let's acknowledge that. That emotional acknowledgement is so important and it's so glazed over in everyday society.
It really is. I think that I know there was a study that said that most people don't leave the job because of more money. They leave it because they are not recognized and not appreciated. And it's just such a simple thing that you can do, but we all overlook it, including for ourselves. It's like rather than saying, "Oh my God, I did that wrong," it's like, "Well, you know what? I actually tried to do that, and here's what happened that was good." So yeah, and no, emotional acknowledgement is cheap and it's free, so uh, easy to do empathy. You say like empathy fuels everything. What
Everything.
does that mean?
I have a big button around the definition that's used around empathy out in like everyday society because it's always like put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I actually think that's way more work. I think this is like it's just believe people because people are telling us how they feel. We can acknowledge them, and by doing that, that's empathy. Like so if somebody's upset, they're upset. Like, let's believe them instead of telling them they shouldn't feel that way or, they have this circumstance and it should be better. It's that empathy is believing them, but I really do think it fuels so much.
And I think flexibility comes in there also because like when you and I met, yeah, the world was, we knew what was going on, and so we're coaches, we're cool. And then suddenly pandemic, and it was like, oh, I know nothing. Everything I believe is gone. I have to restart. So I think that empathy, just you don't have to say, oh my God, this is such a stupid idea. I can't ever deal with this person. It's where they are right now,
Yes.
and you got to leave room for improvement or uh, denigration, it's like not denigration, depression, whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, not improving, whatever that word is. And yeah, so it's a little bit of flexibility too. But I think that comes in with empathy. It's like,
it is.
oh, I have to hear again about your job. No, that's
Yeah.
where they are. Yeah.
And I always say, like, when it comes to the workplace, meet people where they are, not where they should be. Because even if somebody should be at mile marker 15 and they're only at mile marker 5, if somebody's screaming at them, get over here, they don't feel good. But if we
Yeah.
go over and talk to them, be like, okay, what's stopping you from getting there? They might say, well, I sprained my ankle last week. That's a perfectly reasonable reason to be behind where they should be.
Yeah.
So it's having that curiosity and, that empathy and believing people.
Yeah. Another value is in this one I'm totally guilty of. It's like don't rush clarity.
Yes.
It's like I want it now. I want to know what's going on. And it's so bad for me. I have to constantly remember this is now.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I think we want what like people come to coaches because they have a goal in mind. And really it's not about the goal, it's about how they're going to feel after. So of course they want it really quickly, but sometimes it does take time and it's not about I use a lot of metaphors with my clients, so I'm using a lot of metaphors today. It's about like strengthening the muscles. If somebody wants to like lift a large amount and they're going to start going to the gym, they're not going to lift 200 pounds. They'll injure themselves. They're going to start with like bicep curls and maybe some like back strengthening. And like it's a lot of repetition in order to get to the bigger thing. And that's what brings the clarity. So we can't rush it or else an injury could happen.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my tagline is life is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the trip. And it's like, no, but I want to go. I want to be there now. And it's like, well, aren't you being a bit hypocritical? Yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely. I want it now. But it's such a good reminder and such a great value. It's yeah, it's just to remember to life is rich, there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. So the last one that I saw on your website was the authenticity always. So
Yeah.
how do you maintain that? How do you get that? And how do you maintain it?
It's so funny because authenticity is like having this moment right now where everybody's talking about it and like the different generations are talking about it differently. And like, I think somehow along the way, some people started thinking authenticity equated like being very open about everything and just being vulnerable and being an open book. And like, I don't think that's authentic. And I think a lot of leaders struggle with being authentic and how do they be themselves, but then also follow workplace norms, but then how do they kind of navigate and find what works for them? And I think that authenticity is like, it's a gut feeling. Like people know if they're being true to themselves or not. And I think it's like helping people to be able to trust themselves. That's one of the things that I think I do very well with my clients, helping them trust themselves so that they know when they're being authentic or not being authentic. And then the question is why and what will allow them to get back into that space of authenticity and really alignment with themselves.
We could do a whole show on this. Someone just sent me an article where and we both, and he's a coach also, and we both decided we're never going to say this again, but you always tell people be yourself. And
Yes.
it's like that means whatever image you're projecting, you have to be. And rather than be yourself, it's like be aware of where you are right now. And it could be, yeah, I'm a super duper coach and I get paid a lot of money, but I am so confused right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. So don't be yourself. Be authentic to your feelings. And
Yes.
and it was like, oh my, and we both wrote back to each other, oh my God, I'm never going to say that again. Because you're right. That's not authentic. Authentic is true to the image that you want to be, or can be, but
Mhm.
authenticity is like recognizing where you are right now, and that's why the energy levels are so great, also because you can slip. You don't stay at oh I'm number 4 and I'm there for life. No, you go back and forth and up and down.
Yes.
And that's where the lessons are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that whole be yourself, I think, you have younger generations. Like right now, Gen Z is getting a lot of flack, and I'm not like, we need to be kinder, have more empathy towards them. But they're questioning certain norms and they're also being themselves, so it's like what people really want is like what you were saying, like kind of listen to yourself, but then also what's appropriate for the space that we're in. Like that's what people really are wanting. But we were saying be yourself, be authentic. And it's really about like listening to yourself. That's half the battle. And then how do you pay attention to the social cues going on around you?
Yeah, that's interesting because they are getting a lot of flack. And I think our policy, our political scene now, it's like we've got this new young potential governor with all kinds of crazy ideas. And like, whoa, and all the other people are fighting. No, no, that's not going to work. And it's like, just chill,
Yeah.
let's get the information, let's chill. And the reality is, I don't think New York City's going to sink either way. Maybe from
True.
climate change, but not from
Yeah.
political strife. So relax.
True.
But
Yes.
yeah, it's good to have passion, though. Definitely good to
Mhm.
have passion. So I want to find out how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the lovely name. I adore her name. It's Sarah with an H, Wahiba, Wahiba,
Mhm.
and then Senan, Senan. There she is. And it's .com, right?
Yeah, that's my website. That's how I am on LinkedIn, and then I'm also over on Instagram. So I share more personal, not personal for me, but more about like personal development on Instagram, and then more the professional development on LinkedIn. So it's a whole different set of content that I'm sharing in those two spaces.
Oh, I got to check out Instagram. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
familiar with your professional. Yeah. What are they going to find on your website?
My website is, talks about the different offerings that I have. So I do one-on-one coaching, I do executive coaching. Really, it's the same thing. It's just the different audiences, the training and development that I talked about. I also do some mentor coaching. So folks that are looking for renewing their ICF credentials, I help with that. And then I also have just some information, just a lot of the questions that I've gotten over the years. I have a lot of information geared towards that, like what is my approach, therapy versus coaching, some more insight around the energy leadership index, and then also I'm trained in the Enneagram. That's another thing that I love, so that's on there. Then I also have a blog, so there's
Yeah, I was
lots of
going to
stuff
say
on
it's
the
a
website.
huge website. It's not. It really
Yeah.
isn't that big, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would recommend hook up with Sarah on LinkedIn because that's kind of the sparked by it. It's like, oh yeah, Sarah. And how often do you post on there? Because she has really cool tips for executives and leaders, but they can also be adapted to personal development. And I'm going, where is she getting this stuff? I love it.
Yeah. What I've been doing is I post 3 times a week and I kind of think about, okay, what's something that's coming up a lot? And then I'll just kind of draft out like, okay, here's some things that standalone pieces, but I'm telling a story over like 3 to 4 weeks. So right now,
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is a
yeah,
continuity to it.
there's a
Yeah.
continuity. So right now, the story that I'm talking about is just the generational differences and how each generation has gotten a memo. And is the memo a good memo to be following? Because Gen X got told one thing, Millennials are told another thing, and Gen Z is just saying, you know what, let's blow it all up. And it's,
Then you
bringing,
have the boomers going crazy. So
yeah,
yeah. Sarah,
yeah.
we are out of time. Do you
Oh my
believe
goodness.
that? We could have Sarah Wahiba Senan part two. I think
Yeah.
we got a lot to say here. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest on
you.
Coaching Game. I am so glad that we are both ready for this.
Yes. Thank you so much for reaching back out.
No problem.